What's happening, guys? This is James Blum with MMOHUD.com. This time we're taking a first look at Infinite Crisis, the DC Comics-based MOBA-style game developed by Turbine and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. Now, the game is free to play with a cash shop, and it's still in closed beta, but the first cool feature of the game is that it takes place in multiple universes within the DC Comics universe, so players can actually get to play as alternate versions of their favorite DC heroes or villains, like Gaslight Joker, Nightmare Batman, or Atomic Wonder Woman. And having 6 core universes makes for really cool lore for people who aren't already familiar with it. So as of now, there are 15 champions to choose from and 2 maps or gameplay modes you can actually play: Gotham Heights and Coast City. The original map in the game is Gotham Heights, so let's start with that. So as of now, the game doesn't actually have a tutorial or an option to play versus AI, so new MOBA players, you might want to get buddy-buddy with your teammates and learn a little bit as you go. Most players in the closed betas, from what I've seen so far, have played some MOBA games before, but there were a few that haven't, so we had to work with them as a team to get them started. But then again, the game is actually picked up pretty easily. Gotham Heights is almost identical to Dominion in League of Legends. It's basically a beaten down version of Gotham with a circular 2-lane map with 2 teams of 5, obviously, 5 capture points, and a center point called the Orbital Cannon. Each team, red or blue, has a power core similar to the Nexus in League that drains from 100% as points are captured by the teams. The more points captured by the same team, the faster the rate of decrease in power core health of the opposing team. In this particular map, everyone starts out at level 3, and it pushes you past the initial lane phase and straight into the action, keeping players, for the most part, equal levels, preventing anyone from falling too far behind prior to the major team fights that you'll encounter often. These matches typically last about 20 minutes, and every so often the Orbital Cannon capture point unlocks and members of either team can capture it to unleash a huge meteor into the enemy team's urban jungle and release super minions that head straight towards enemy-owned control points. Not to mention, the center point becomes a bonus control point for the holding team temporarily. In other words, when you hear that the Orbital Cannon is unlocked, you best stop what you're doing and grab some team members and capture it before your enemies do. Seeing that the map is circular, it's very easy to navigate around and sneak through the urban jungle to get control of the points that are across the map, and it's pretty easy to pick up a convenient health pack whenever needed. Another really cool, unique aspect of the game is that a pretty good amount of its environments is destructible, so you'll see a lot of objects getting moved around, slamming into the ground, champions picking up cars and throwing them at each other, and you can use it pretty strategically if you can kind of get it set up right by targeting, say, a car that a champion is next to and blowing it up, dealing a decent amount of damage. I'm not gonna lie, it actually keeps it pretty exciting in team fights whenever you see Doomsday chasing after you with a car over his head. So the controls are set up so that they feel very familiar to standard MOBA players, but when you start the game for the first time, it does ask you if you're experienced with MOBAs, and it applies settings accordingly, but you can always go back and change those settings. For learning how to play the game straight up, I didn't really mess with the item shop much, and I used the recommended items for my champion. But from what I can tell, the layout is pretty straightforward, easy to navigate, and easy to find the item you're looking for. And so that's Gotham Heights, the original map of the game. Their latest map is called Coast City, which has a slightly less dark atmosphere to it, even though the scenery still looks like a huge battle took place. This map is also a circular 2-lane map, and it's set up with 5 turrets on each side with an urban jungle in the center, filled with neutral creatures, power relays, and the Doomsday device. The Doomsday device is actually pretty cool. After about 10 minutes into the match, it activates and opens up a new passageway to the center of the urban jungle. Now, when it's activated, the Doomsday device is a neutral turret that must get destroyed in order to drop the firing control beacon. Once you've picked up the beacon, you get to choose where to fire it. Now, don't waste it, because you can either fire it at the enemies if they're all grouped up together, or you can fire it at their towers if you're trying to push their base. Either way, it sucks to get hit by it, so avoid that if all possible. There are also neutral objectives in the urban jungle that help you push lanes called power relays. Now, there are 3 total, and capturing 1 gives your minions increased damage. 2 relays will add beefy minions to your top lane, and capturing all 3 relays will give you more beefy minions to your bottom lane, but I doubt capturing all relays is very common. But then again, assassins can sneak around pretty effectively in this map with all the stealth pads lying around, which basically function like hiding in the bush in League. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 15 champions to choose from currently, and I typically like the range characters in MOBA, so I first chose Gaslight Batman, which I don't know if I'd suggest is the first champion to choose. He's a ranged support character that has a nice escape, along with controlled skills that let you detonate them, and an ulti that travels across the map. I've got to say he isn't the easiest character to play, but after you get used to him, he can be pretty powerful, and he's not really fun for soloing, but in a team fight, he can definitely pick out the weak ones. Similarly, Cyborg is also ranged, but I'd have to say that playing him is much easier than with Gaslight Batman. His basic attack also does nice amounts of damage, especially after his passive makes every 4th basic attack a powerful one. And his ultimate does tons of damage, plus continues to reflect upon his basic attacks after several seconds later, making his basic attacks pierce through his enemies at full range, doing damage in a line. Now, occasionally I don't mind playing as an assassin, but I definitely don't claim to be good at it. But the latest champion, Atomic Wonder Woman, is really fun to play. Besides, she has the Chainsaw of Justice. She uses her passive called Rev to deal attack penetration, and it lets her stack to get revved. And once revved, she's able to extend her skills in various ways, of course, dealing extra damage. Her ulti is also nice for capturing people. And she's immune to effects that interrupt her movement during her ulti. Or at least sometimes.
The enemy has fired the ultimate cannon. An enemy
As far as the cash shop goes, just like other MOBAs, there's options to purchase champions and skins, and even for the current champions, there's already special skins available for purchase. You can purchase champions with in-game or real currency, but the skins will actually cost you out of pocket. You're also able to unlock stolen powers with in-game currency, and this gives you the ability to choose a skill from another champion, the common skills. Like if you like playing as Gaslight Batman but you wanted to be able to lift cars like Wonder Woman, you could purchase that skill to use as a replacement to one of your other powers. These kind of work like the summoner skills in League. So in general, I think the game is going somewhere. It's a lot like playing your typical MOBA. Some games are absolutely epic and some not so much. There are still some lag problems, but nothing too bad. The champions seem to be really balanced so far, and both game modes are actually done really well. I also like that they've already implemented a lot of communication between the champions. Like sometimes it's in passing, and sometimes it's like right after a fight.
Sharply done, Catwoman.
There are, however, some things that it's still missing, like a surrender function, for example. There were too many games that I played where a player was AFK because they weren't playing well or something. They just basically opted out. But we still had to sit through the entire match handicapped as 4v5. Plus, it would be beneficial if they added a tutorial and added some accessibility for new players. The game is obviously still in beta, so a lot will change before the actual release, but it does make me that much more surprised that the game is already leaping into the esports scene without even going public with the game yet. But any convenience features can be fixed much faster than any structural issues with the game, and thankfully that part of Infinite Crisis is intact. Along with the fun factor and overall multi-universe theme to the game, of course. So yeah, the game is still in closed beta for now. I would imagine it going into open beta in about a month or so, but that's just my guess. Until then, guys, thanks for watching. If you're looking for more information about Infinite Crisis, head over to the game profile at MMOHUD.com. But until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.